Hello, it's Nikki. Well, I've got an extra special training for you today, which is all about elevating your personal brand in 2021. Now, you might be thinking, hang about, Nikki, like, let's get Christmas out the way. I'm not there yet. I need a big sleep. I need to do that thing that you see in nature programs where the hedgehog gets all nocturnal for the winter. That might be you, but what I wanted to do is share this now just so you can start to have a few little thoughts, because I don't know about you, but certainly for me, my ideas come when I'm doing something else and my head is in a creative space or in a restful space, not where I'm just sitting at my computer going, must think of brilliant ideas. Anyway, Natalia Sanders she's so many things. She runs ClearDesk VA, and she's a VA herself, but mainly her main bulk of her business now is helping others. So she focuses on VA one-to-one mentoring. Also, she has a VA membership group where people can share ideas and leads and all kinds of great things. So if you're a VA or you're thinking about becoming a VA, this is going to be a wonderful thing. You might be able to hear my son in the background, so I will keep this short and sweet. I just wanted to give a little introduction and say hello and thank you, Natalia, for letting me share this. I'm going to run. Enjoy the workshop. And oh yes, you need a pen and paper because there's lots I'm going to be sharing.
And I literally have to run down the landing and scribble them down somewhere. So there's absolutely no pressure to think, oh my goodness, I've got to have this all sorted by the end of the day. What I want to do is basically to share it with you. You can come back and revisit whenever you like. You can ask me questions, etc. But I've got the information to share, and that's kind of where I'm coming from. So if we haven't met before, I am very much in the portfolio career type situation. So I was trained as an actor 20 years ago. I moved to London, and very quickly I realized that actually Steven Spielberg didn't have my landline, because I don't even know if I had a mobile at that stage. I mean, it was probably very early stages, one of those where you can only keep 10 text messages on your phone at any given time. And it was like, oh, what do I keep? Oh, that bit of weird lyrics from a 90s boy band, or what do I do? So basically, I realized that very quickly that if I could be a personal brand, essentially, if I could be entrepreneurial, if I could make my own opportunities work for me, then I was going to be able to do all of the things that I loved. So I was able to be creative. I was able to be flexible. I was able to eventually have a family later down the line, although that didn't happen for another sort of I can't do the maths, but another sort of 15 years. And certainly when I was 18, I was not thinking about having a baby, but it's really been an ever evolving situation. Now, the reason that I'm sharing this is because even if you just do one thing really well, so actually at the moment, a lot of my work is coming from being a personal branding coach. So I really help people to elevate their personal brand. So it not only works for them in the moment, as in getting clients or creating content for social media or things like that. I really see if I can look at it and help people to make it very robust so it works for them. So for example, I've shared a few things that have happened here, places that I've worked, collaborations that I've done. And so even though technically a lot of my work is one-to-one personal branding coaching, by having a strong personal brand, I've been able to attract other opportunities. So therefore, my reach gets bigger. I've created a podcast. The network has become bigger. So what I felt, and it's taken me a while to get to this place. Don't, imagine that I've just woken up like this and it's all been easy peasy. There's been many ugly cries along the way. But what I want to share is, I really work on the basis now of trying to make my business feel easy and full of flow. And that's not to say I don't have those moments when I'm trying to suss new technology, or I have a bad day, or I've been up all night with the kids. But what I'm looking to do now is to be very strategic with my time and my energy, so I can actually have a really good life as well. I have no interest in the hustle harder, kind of mentality, or like doing 18-hour days. No thanks. So as a lover of the 90s game show, I thought I would start with this. Are you going to show me a gold car, Nikki? I'm laughing at this myself because the thought of actually having a gold car, I mean, I just don't know what that experience would be like. I think it would be quite amusing, like, oh, she's the woman with the gold car. But again, this is just to share who I am in the context of self-development, of being a brand online. That the typical way at the moment is all about the funnels. It's all about the entrepreneurial dream. You know, I was homeless and then I was living in a castle, or people sharing their launches, or talking in that very direct way, let's just say. And actually for me, business is about doing it on my terms and really getting connected with what do I want from this. So sometimes I have worked with coaches, or I've joined trainings or masterminds or things like that. And sometimes it can feel like there's only one way to do something. Now, because of my combination of skills and circumstances and things like that, actually a lot of those things don't work for me. So this kind of silly analogy is really just to give you the permission every step of the way with this, or with any other training, or how you're planning out your 2021, is to go inwards first rather than outwards. So somebody might be saying, guys, you've got to get on TikTok, come over here and do that. If that doesn't feel like a match, if you think actually that's not going to get me the results that I want to have in my business, then leave it to the kids, leave it to them doing that. Now, there is a difference in these sometimes about comfort zone, for sure. So with my podcast, for example, that I started almost 3 years ago, it'll be its birthday is 3 years next month. With that, I knew I wanted to do it, and I knew that it was going to be really great for me, but it did feel out my comfort zone at that stage because I hadn't done it before. So that's kind of an example of how checking in with something will really give you an idea of what's actually going on in that. So that's kind of my first question for you around success, is what is my version, or what is your version? And this might be something to think about over the coming weeks, the coming months, of really checking in, of going, is this the way that I want to be doing this? Is there something more? Or do I need to just draw a line under that? And quite often this will happen with coaching clients, where they'll suddenly say, I don't want to offer that service anymore. And those moments can feel really scary, because business sometimes is, well, quite often actually, is caught up in emotion, in wanting to do a good job, in being a lovely person, and all of those things that are typically quite female and actually really essential, I think, for business. You know, the moment that I go, yeah, I don't really give a monkeys about this, yeah, I'll show up, yeah, I'll do an average job, like, you need to pull me to one side. I mean, I think I can hear my mum's voice going, nope, you do your best, you don't just do that. But really thinking about what your version is, and giving yourself permission to play around with those alternatives of what you want. So certainly this year, in terms of my own business, I really made some strong decisions. And some of those decisions actually didn't come to fruition of me going, oh yeah, I'm really glad that I did that, until last month. So until the 11th month of the year. I mean, you know, talk about cutting it fine, but there were some things that I made decisions about in April, but I had to be bold. I had to be trusting, and just really listen to what's going to be important here. So I always talk about in my trainings and in elevating and goal setting and things like this is my magical triangle. And the way that I use this is it really helps me to tune into what is actually going on. So I'm going to throw out the equilateral triangle. And already my son, who's 5, is bringing stuff down home from school. And I'm like, oh, we didn't learn it like that. Interesting. Like, get on Dr. Google, see what's happening. But the equilateral triangle is basically that triangle with the 3 sides that are all the same length. And I want you just to imagine that, or you can draw it as I'm saying it, is the vision, the strategy, and the mindset. So my belief is that the three have to see where they can be balanced at all time. So how this works practically. Firstly, you've got to be really clear about what your vision is. So essentially, this is putting in your postcode into the sat nav. Where are you trying to get to? What's the plan? What's the end point? What's the vision? And this doesn't necessarily have to be the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan. Actually, quite often I will set goals probably on like the 28th to 29th of the month and make a plan for the following month. And that really gives me a sense of being able to make decisions and make goals based on what I know to be true from the last month, but then being really clear about where my business is going next. However, at the beginning of the year, I do try and set some quite solid goals for the year ahead. And bizarrely, I chose the word for 2020, thrive. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if it was quite the right word, but actually when I come back to it, I'm like, I made a decision that I wanted to see if I could thrive through this time. And my business has grown in different and unexpected ways, and it's decreased in other ways. So yeah, who knew that that would be the case? So having this vision is really important because it sort of puts a marker in the sand. And if we go back to that car analogy, there's nothing worse than driving around with somebody and they go, oh, it's round here somewhere. Is it this street? And then suddenly they're doing like another U-turn, they're reversing around a corner and they're like, hang about, oh, I'm not really sure where it's going. If you're feeling like that in your business, you end up overcompensating almost. You end up really working hard all of the time, or you might feel in a state of not really trusting, or you're not feeling like you're working from solid ground, and that can be really uncertain. And that also can leak a lot of the energy that you have available. You know, it takes a lot of energy to be able to get up every morning and go, right, I'm going to grow my business today, I'm going to do this, I'm going to move outside of my comfort zone. That takes time and effort and energy. So having this vision to be really strong will help you every step of the way. The second thing that has to be in place is the strategy. Now, some people will strategize something right to the nth degree, where they're like, no, this is the plan, I am not deviating, I've said that I will do this, this, and this, and therefore that's what I'm going to do. For me, my strategy is probably 70% plan, logistics, organization. But I always think for me, there has to be about 30% of checking in, being open to possibilities, being playful in that process. Because if I get too strategic, I close other things off because I'm like, no. It's kind of like if you were dating. Sometimes you might have your list. I mean, this is going back a long time. You might have your list of requirements, and then somebody just comes along and you're like, oh, that's not who oh no, I've fallen in love. Okay, fine. And I think you have to be open a little bit in life to being able to, I mean, I'm using those 2020 words of being nimble and pivoting and really working in unprecedented times. The third thing I want to talk about is your mindset. So you can have a really strong vision. You can have that beautiful strategy in a notebook, all looking glorious. Everything feels great on the Excel spreadsheet. But that mindset piece has to be really strong as well. And it has to have equal weight in that triangle. The reason that is that you have to believe that this is possible. And when you're embarking on setting new goals, sometimes you might not believe that it's possible. And having that as a starter is a good place, actually, because you might have a bit of apprehension. You might not have done anything like you want to do before. And that can be unnerving. That can be unsettling. So in that, and last month actually was one of those months, like if you told me at the end of November, my end of October, sorry, that my November would look like that, I'd be like, absolutely no way. You're joking. No. So I, in a way, didn't believe it was possible. However, I did set the goal and I made the decision to go, okay, well, if I want to do that, and maybe I don't quite believe that I can do it, who else has done that? Or what frame of mind do I need to be in? Or how can I almost trick myself that it could be possible? And how can I stay in momentum of like, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to see what happens in that way. So the reason that the three have to work really powerfully together is you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't know where you want to end up, it's all going to be a bit funky. Also, if you don't work on your mindset and check in with that, the strategy might go a bit all over the shop. So coming back to those three things will be really useful. So I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction today in terms of how I work. And this 4-step framework is really going to help you to focus on what your next steps might need to be. And when I'm talking about this, there are some of these stages that may feel really easy to you. So you might be an amazing planner where you're like, I know what I'm doing. I've got my notebook. I've had a meditation. I went on a long walk last night and then I woke up and I was full of loads of ideas. So you might be brilliant at that planning situation. But as you go through the packaging and the propelling, so I'll go into those a bit more in detail, like how you actually charge for the stuff that you want to do, how you actually start to monetize and grow your income within your business, that might be quite a stumbling block. So again, if you went back to the three sides of the triangle, you might have that vision. So you might be like, right, in my business, I want it to do this, this, and this. The strategy might be, I need to create more clients, so I've got to do X, Y, and Z. But maybe the mindset in terms of this packaging situation might hold you back. Those things of like, who am I to charge this? Would anybody pay for this? What if I'm never going to get another client again? All of the things. So going back to planning, I really believe that you have to know what you want your business to do for you. And as I say, I've got 2 young children. I have lots of skills that I want to pull together to create this portfolio career. And with having a skill like acting in the mix, I need a business that's going to be flexible. So for many years, I had a business that I felt like I was stuck in and it wasn't allowing me any wiggle room. So I would have huge commitments where I would say, right, I'm going to give somebody 24 hours per week, and then I would have a 3-hour commute, and it just didn't work for me because as soon as something else came into the mix, this bit felt solid. It didn't feel movable. The second thing I'm going to be talking about is packaging and really working out how you want to package your services, how you want to create your own menu of services that's not only going to work for your business and hit your targets, hit your goals that you want, but also it's going to feel good. It's going to work with your personality. So I always use this analogy of vlogging. Like, I know there will be some YouTubers who are like, just show who you are, vlog every day, daily vlog, I think is the term that they talk about. But the thought of having to get a camera out at, I mean, it was 20 to 6 this morning and go, hi guys, right, family vloggers, let's do this. It's just not going to work for my lifestyle. So I really have to package things up in a way that feels good. The third stage is about how you're going to present your personal brand. So how are you going to share with your target market and like understanding who they are, what you actually do, and how can you say this in a typical way? So going back to the gold card chat at the beginning of this presentation, I'm never going to stand with my hands on my hips, pointing at people and say, you've got to click the link down below, because oh my goodness, when people shout at me in that way, it just makes me feel really icky. And I don't want to click the link down below. I don't want people to shout at me. I need that gentle approach. So we're at a point, I guess, with presenting your skills where you can do it in so many brilliant ways. There's so many opportunities. So actually content marketing is a huge part of my business. And it's a part of my business that allows my business to grow time and day on day because I'm building a body of work in this. So when I'm thinking about a podcast episode, for example, not only does that work for me when I release it, I'm always looking at ways where it can work work for me time and time again. So I love it when somebody goes, I mean, I think there's, I got a stat yesterday. I think I've done 359 podcasts. I loved it when somebody messaged me the other day going, I listened to episode 147 the other day and I got this from it and this from it and this from it. So when you're thinking about presenting, going back to that ease and flow model of how you want to run your business, think about those ways of how you can elevate without thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to find another 16 hours from somewhere. I don't know what that's going to look like. This moves nicely into the propel bit. So really thinking about what are those opportunities going to be? And one of the things I talk about is the relief that we don't have to go around with a sandwich board when we are talking about our business. So I always feel for those people who have to like solely rely on passing people, so footfall around. And I always think about them in this time of the pandemic when everybody's staying at home, those moments of trying to pass on leaflets to, I don't know, 500 of your ideal customers. And you might have 500 leaflets when you start, but you actually have no idea because you're thinking, I don't want to wear this chicken outfit anymore, or I don't want to wear this sandwich board because it's really heavy. And I've given out 500 leaflets, but then I've just seen somebody chuck a couple in the bin down there. Oh no, this just feels really rubbish. So before I guess you get, or I get, I'm not going to assume here, but a typical thing that might happen with my clients is this sense of like, oh my goodness, I've got to be everywhere. I'm so overwhelmed with the technology. Do I need to be on Instagram? Is this a podcast? Oh my goodness, I haven't posted for a while. What should I do? And firstly, thinking and about the relief of not having to go out with a digital sandwich board really grounds me, and it really gets to a place of possibility of going, wow, isn't the internet a really brilliant thing? And it takes me to a place of like, so how do I want to make it work for me? So propelling is all about press, it's about more visibility, it's more about getting those emails of so-and-so heard this, somebody sent me your podcast, I heard you on this interview, I saw your details on this website. It's all those things that will work for you without you being in the room. So this is where you're going to need your notebook, and you can come back and revisit these questions. So I'm just going to throw them out there at this stage. So going into stage one, identifying what success means to you. So full big-hearted living, no just making do. And I am a child of the 80s and 90s. And do you remember when we used to think success was like marrying a footballer, a mock Tudor mansion, maybe a tracksuit, maybe a designer bag. And that's the only kind of flashy version of success. And actually, for me, it's much more nuanced than that. And really identifying what that success is really going to help you have the business that you want. So one of the values that I have that's really important is flexibility. So we've got our son home from school at the moment. They had a positive case in his class. And so therefore that's just Matty coming in, by the way. So they have to stay home. And one of those things of identifying success was about being able to be flexible in that. So notice I wasn't talking about like, oh my goodness, I'm traveling first class. I mean, that would be lovely, but you know, it's not necessarily a goal at the moment. Also, making sure that you're aligning your business and your life in a way that works for you. So I actually don't want a really stressful business. I don't want those moments where it's like, I've got a call in, it's 5 to 10 on a Friday evening, I've got to take it, Hong Kong, a phoning. Like, no. So I don't necessarily think about like the ultimate balance where like today I'm mum and now I'm working, or, you know, pure example there. I'm sure Matt just realized that one of the kids didn't have socks or something and needed to come in that way. So when you're thinking about balance, I actually like the word blend. What's your blend? What are the things that you want to have in your working week? Thirdly, How do you want to work that will suit your personality and your circumstances? So what I wanted to do, and one of my goals was for this year, was to work with fewer people, but for a longer period of time. So I had that sense of being in their corner and seeing their progression and seeing what they were doing. Also, I made some decisions about who those ideal clients were. And actually, one of my values is I really want to like them, and I really want to be able to get on with them and not like dread going, oh my goodness, I've got a session with this person. Oh, she's a real energy drain and all the rest of it. Now, I'm not saying that clients have to come fully formed, perfect. You know, we're all human beings. And sometimes with the work that I do have clients who go, I really don't know what to do in this situation. Like, I'm feeling really stuck, or there's an obstacle in the way and I can't figure out what that is. That's absolutely fine. But it is about that willingness. It's about that, okay, let's see if we can figure it out, rather than, you know, being a toddler and just lying on the floor in that way. Okay, the fourth part of this is about really being specific about what you want and considering what is possible. So sometimes people might just say, I just want to feel a bit more like me. I just want to be happier. I just want to make more money. And this is about really getting specific of what could that look like, for example. So if you want to make more money, what does that figure look like per month? And some people might just say, I just want to be a millionaire. Like, a millionaire would be amazing. But that is a goal without kind of any structure. So that's a really strong vision, but it doesn't necessarily have the strategy or the mindset to kind of hold it up as that triangle. So getting really specific about what that might look like. So maybe it's that case of, and I'm going to use £100 here for example. So you might be making £100. You're probably making a lot more, but £100 in your business per month. And if one of your goals is to make money, what is that goal? What's that next level? So maybe you go, for 2021, I'm going to go big time. Like, I'm going to go for £500 a month. So getting really specific on what that number is, it will give you an indication of therefore what you have to do. So in order to make up that £400, for example, what does that look like in terms of the action, the input that you need to take? So how many clients would that be? What would that do to your pricing menu, for example? It will give you lots of clues. Moving on to stage 2, so packaging. I always like to talk about my services as a menu. So there are some people that I work with that go, I need everything. I need you to hold my hand. I need you to be there for a year. And that's certainly the relationship that I've got at the moment. At the beginning of the year, I decided to work with a coach for a year and had to make the payment kind of turning to the left because I couldn't quite look at my screen. But there are some people who want that more premium type situation. Could I have done that 5 years ago? Absolutely not. But I felt like I needed to make that I don't like using that word, but that investment in myself. I needed to make a commitment because ultimately she had skills that she could teach me that were really important to me at that time. And there will be some people that will start with, like if you were going to a new coffee shop, for example, or a new cafe, you might turn up and you go, I'm just going to have a coffee and see what this is like. And then eventually you might build up to going, we're going to go in for a meal. We're going to go in for a breakfast. We're going to sit down and we're going to order the coffee as well, but also we're going to order the breakfast because we've seen it on the other table and that looks really nice. It might build up to then of going, okay, I really like the breakfast. And I think some members of my family would. So when those people come to stay, we'll take them. And then eventually what might happen in that circumstance is, I absolutely love this cafe. And I've heard that they do private hire. So for my 40th, I'm going to ask them to open up on a Saturday night and do all my yummy food that I absolutely love. So I want you to think about your menu of services. And actually your business model might be as such where you just have one thing that you offer. But in terms of taking it to that point of propelling it and really making it work for you, it might be interesting just to explore this as well. Also thinking about how you can create your own income pie. So really thinking about how you want to make your work for you. So certainly this year, in terms of my speaking commitments, I haven't really been doing a lot of live speaking because nobody's been going out. So in terms of my income pie, in 2020, that speaking slice of it looks quite different to the previous year. So really thinking about what I need to do in order to make that income pie not only work for me, but work in keeping with the circumstances that are going on. So even if I said to people like, guys, I've hired the most amazing hotel room, it's going to be fantastic, I'm throwing on afternoon tea for everybody, we're going to do this live coaching session, so many people be like, you're all right, thanks, like I don't want to come and all of you sit on a bed and be really close together. No thanks. So in terms of 2021, I want you to think about what you want your income pie to look like. Then moving on to pricing. So as a starter, it might be interesting to think about what is your pricing right now and where is there wiggle room? Could you package things up in a different way? Are you offering lower cost or high ticket offerings? Is there something for the person who wants all the things? So another analogy that I use is my dad, for example. So he could go on a website and go, right, I would like to go to, it feels weird talking about travel, but go with me with the analogy, please. But he might go, right, I want to go to Spain for a fortnight. So I'm going to go on this discount website for flights, and then I'm going to go on this random taxi firm to get me from the airport to the place. I'm then going to book the accommodation in a different place, but oh, okay, they don't do breakfast there, but I need to book breakfast elsewhere. My dad is not going to have the patience to do that. And I know that I would probably get a phone call halfway through that thing of like, Nick. Fortunately, he doesn't do that with me, but he would go to a travel agent. I mean, imagine that. There's a really good one in their local town where somebody would very patiently sit down and go, right, what is the shape of this? Where do you want to go with that? And if they can add added extras in there, my dad is all in for that. So you might have that package in terms of your clients where you can go, do you know what? All these things that you hate in your business, I can do those for you. And I can make this work. And I can really look at X, Y, and Z. So it's funny, it's like, don't leave money on the table. That sounds very kind of Bugsy Malone or some kind of what's the film that I'm thinking of? The Godfather. I'm not talking about it in a sleazy way, but there will be some people who go, do you know what? It's a special occasion, or do you know what? I've got these big goals in 2021. I need all of the things. And finally, in this section, like thinking about how you can package your gifts based with ease and flow, so your business admin is kept to a minimum and your profits to a maximum. So again, for me, I wanted to create much more recurring income in my business. So I do have quite a big side of my business that is online, that is online courses and things like that, but that can sometimes be a bit unpredictable. Sometimes I'll be surprised and I'll get loads of sales one month, and then other times I'll be like, is anybody ever going to buy anything ever again? So I really wanted to create consistency. I wanted to make my business feel a bit more predictable, because in terms of my life plans, my life goals, I have bigger ones there. So making sure that you're creating this business and taking it into 2021 feeling good and feeling like it's going to work for you rather than against. Stage 3 is really about presenting. So I want you to think about how you currently present your personal brand, even though you have a combination of roles. So I found this really difficult in the beginning because it felt confusing, and people would go, what? So you're like a coach, but oh, you're not doing the acting anymore. Oh yeah, it is a really hard profession. But I had to get to a stage where it's like, no, I haven't given anything up. And actually, they all inform each other. So if I was a builder and a pilot and a cafe owner, yes, that might be a bit more tricky for somebody to get their head around. But generally, mine, actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster, they all kind of flow into each other. So when I'm thinking about how I present my personal brand, I really have to make sure that I'm being clear in terms of my website, what I actually do. And this is a real pet peeve of mine, because the amount of times I go on people's websites, I'm like, I'm not really sure what this is. Who are you? What do I need to do next? So I want you to make sure that your marketing is really clear going into 2021. Remember, we're all a bit foggy headed at the moment. We're all quite tired. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of heaviness. So if you can be that person that stands out and goes, here we go, like, don't worry, I'm going to make this easier. I'm going to be really transparent, really straightforward. It's going to be really appealing. Also thinking about your online presence. So one of the things that I pride myself on is the gap is really close for me from somebody discovering my content or discovering my website to actually booking a call with me or purchasing something. And of course, you will have the lurkers sometimes who will like look at your site again and again and again, or they'll follow you on social media for years and they don't need to do anything. And sometimes, you know, I will get those messages when somebody will say, I've been watching your videos since 2014, but now is the time. Great. There will be those sorts of people in your world. But generally, I want you to think about how you can make it easy for people to take the next step. So how can you close that gap? What can you do to make that easier? And it might be that they're not ready to purchase yet. You might not have a service that they want or they're willing to buy, but how can you welcome them into your world? Also, your in-person work. So how can you get yourself in the mix of things? So sometimes people go, oh my God, like I love women in business. Like, yeah, I can talk about women in business stuff. But when Natalia asked me to do this, it was about being really clear on what was going to be most useful, what I could talk about in these circumstances. So getting to know what your topics are, your areas of expertise, are not only going to work in that initial conversation, but they're going to have that ripple effect where somebody will say, oh my goodness, I was talking to somebody the other day and she was saying that she does something like this. Oh yeah, Nikki, she's called. Yeah, I think I've got her. Yeah, I'll pass you on. That's the sort of stuff that you want to have. So again, there's no room for vagueness of like, yeah, I think she kind of, I don't know, she does a bit of admin. Is it admin? Not really sure. The clearer that you can get with your offering and how you present it and how you welcome people into your world, the better. Also, how can you create conversations and connections through content? One of my most popular posts, and it's one that I will bravely say that I churn out again and again, is I used to get told off for, let me get it right, let me get my own phrase right. I used to get told off for talking and now I get paid for speaking. And that is one of those really golden pieces of content that people go, ooh, because not only does it take them back to a point of like, oh yeah, yep. I used to get told off for talking to, oh, yep, yeah, definitely. But also it has a second part to it where people go, she's getting paid for speaking. How's she doing that? Oh, what's that all about? And therefore that brings a conversation, because then they might join my speaking program, for example, where I take people step by step, etc. Also thinking about how you actually sell your offerings. So I can find it so easy just to share random pictures of my kids being cute, or I don't know, what I had for lunch, or a lovely sunrise, or things like that. But I do have to remember, for the most part on social media, I'm there for business. I actually don't really have a strong personal profile on Facebook anymore. I'm in WhatsApp with the people who are sort of in my inner circle. So I want you to notice whether you actually have a strong sales strategy in what you're doing. And if you don't, firstly, question why. In terms of going back to that triangle, maybe there's a mindset thing here. Maybe there's an obstacle that I need to work through here. And maybe sometimes that's like, I'm not really sure what I'm selling. So it could be a strategy thing. So really play around with what's going on there. The final stage, stage 4, is all about propel. So how do you propel and power up your personal brand without working harder? So like I mentioned, when people just go, just work till midnight, yeah, and get up at 4 in the morning. Like, no, I am a terrible person if I have 4 hours sleep. I have no interest in that. But do I want to grow my brand and my business? Absolutely. Do I want to get to a stage, and I'm not quite there yet, where I take the whole of the 6 weeks holiday off and I close my laptop and I say I'm unavailable? Ooh, yeah, that sounds appealing. So I'm really thinking about all the different ways. And sometimes this, in the very simplest sense of, is there an easier way I can do this? Is there a way that I can do this once and it works for me again and again? So for example, this could be templates, this could be stuff that you do for clients, but really thinking about passive income perhaps. Maybe it's the same conversation that you have in your DMs again and again, where people want the information from you. Could you create a little course? Could you put together a webinar or a masterclass or something like that? Thirdly, how can you step into expert status and be the go-to person in your industry? So I've seen how this works, watching other people do this. And finally, I've started to have moments of this myself. So before I had my daughter in August 2019, I was really thinking about how my personal brand could continue to work for me, but without me going, sorry, darling, I know I only gave birth to you like 7 days ago, but I've got to go around with my sandwich board. So I really thought about how I can make my content work for me, basically. I did a lot of batching, a lot of pre-records, a lot of scheduling, things like that. And therefore, when she was about 6 weeks old, I got a call from somebody at Stylist Magazine. She was like, can you come and do this event? And I was like, do you know that I've just had a baby? Is this okay? Can I bring my mum? My mum loves a goodie bag. Is that okay? Can I bring my baby as well? And she was like, yeah, great. Absolutely. And the thing that she said was, you were the first person I thought of. And I thought that was so interesting because I hadn't actually had a direct conversation. I hadn't actually directly pitched to her. But what I was showing in terms of my content is I'm ready. I'm still doing all the things. I'm there and all the rest of it. Now, that's a bit of a kind of a dodgy conversation in terms of motherhood. And, you know, maybe some people will be like, what? She did a talk when she was 10 weeks old? That seems ridiculous. But it kind of worked for us. I hope you can kind of see the context of that. Anyway, so how to bring ease and flow, that phrase again, when you're time squeezed already. So again, looking at those boundaries, those systems, those templates, and also setting yourself up for the next level of success. So there is this pressure sometimes to go to the next level, but going to the next level is going to require some different habits, are going to require some different views about things, maybe some mindset shifts, Sean Connery, mindset shifts, and playing a bigger game. And I didn't realize that that would be the case. I was like, well, if I've written it in my notebook, it's going to happen. No, there have been times where I've had to step into the next version of myself, if that doesn't sound too arty-farty. Okay, I will leave it there. What are your next steps is my question. So I've shared a lot of information. I don't want you to think, oh my goodness, she's now given us 71 journal prompts and I've got to have answers to these. I want you to pick 1, 2, or 3, something like that, where you're like, I really need to look at my packages. Or this year, I really need to set some proper goals in terms of how often I show up online. Or this year, I really need to have a conversation with those people in my family of like, what do we want to do as a family this year? Therefore, what kind of business do I want to have? So sometimes you hear that with people who they go, I've got kids doing GCSE, so therefore I want to be around. This year, my son started school in September, so I wanted to have a quieter September. He didn't start till the 24th of September. I should just preface with that. But I needed to make my business work for me in terms of the way that we were setting things up. Here I am again. This is my podcast if you want to come and play. And there's, as I say, there's oodles of information and interviews with experts, including your good self, and some little solo episodes as well. And finally, you're more than welcome to book a free 15-minute session. So if you want to just go, yeah, you've said something, but I'm not really sure what you mean, or I could do with a bit more clarity around that, or I just want to, I hate that phrase of like role playing it, but like if you just want to kind of thrash it out and jam it through and just go, is it this or is it that? I was thinking this, but I'm not sure. That's what that is for there.